About my story, and then I want to talk and maybe dig into a little bit into your story as well. Is that okay?
Yes.
So I've been in the business a little bit over 5.5, 6 years. And growing up, I had two dreams. My goal was to play professional football. My second goal was to own my own business. Now, my uncle played professionally for the San Diego Chargers. Right? Now, I got a call from the Washington Redskins. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. And that's probably why I didn't work out too good, but I got a master's degree in counseling. So I started working in counseling with children, mental health, sports, church, you name it. And I love what I did, but in those of you who understand corporate America, whoever controls your paycheck, what? Controls you. Long story short, I helped a small company in Virginia expand and grow, made a lot of money. So guess how they were paid me? They let me go. So I'll tell you this, when I got introduced to the company, right, I didn't have a job. I was probably the guy you would not have put on your prospect list because I had about $800 left to my name. So I couldn't start a $250 a month IUL, $500 a month IUL, but if you would have overlooked me, you would probably miss out on a 7-figure override for the rest of your life. Wow. So let me share something with you. I was introduced to WFG in Virginia. Got started pretty quickly. Hit marketing director by the company guidelines 2 months in. But let me share with you how I got fast started. Comfort, someone handed me a fast start sheet and said, hey, put names and numbers on a list and then give them a call. That's how I was fast started. And by the way, we all know leaders in the building, we're supposed to control the point of contact. So therefore, I completely did something you call the scenario of disaster, and I completely blew through my warm market. Now, you gotta understand this though. I'm a mama's boy, and even my mom didn't support me, right? I want to share something with you. I'm a mama's boy. So growing up, mama, love you, right? Right? Love you, everything was great. My mama didn't support me. Right? That's how you know it was a scenario of disaster. But what I realized is there's two things to be successful in business. Number one, you have to understand you can't be the trust and the credibility at the same time. And so I was the trust. People knew me as a counselor, they knew me as a football player, but no one knew me as a financial professional. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so therefore, if anyone in here is actually trying to run their own market, and you're not running the system, you're not having success, right? That should tell you something. By the way, Greg Cap always says this, if I hit you, I didn't mean to miss you. But when it comes down to this, I completely messed up my one market. Completely blew it out. So how did you hit marketing director 60 days after you got started with the company guidelines? Because I want you to understand something. My why was bigger than my adversity. I'm going to share a little bit about my adversity here in a moment. But I literally lost everything, and I'll never forget, my wife and I had 3 kids at the time, 3 small kids at the time. 2 of them were in diapers, right? And I'll never forget looking in their eyes, feeling like a failure. Car payment, a mortgage, no income coming in, $800 left to my name, and this company called me at the right place at the right time. Now I'm gonna tell you something, I was grateful for that because had I had my job where I was making $60,000, $70,000 a year in income, where we had a little bit of savings there, I probably would have been as dissatisfied. But I was hungry, I was dissatisfied, I needed to win, and I had 4 primary reasons I wanted to win. My family, my wife, my children. Does that make sense? Yes. Anybody have kids in the room? Yes. All right, if you have kids, you literally would do whatever it takes for them, right? You would die for your kids, right? If you're a good parent, hopefully, right? You would do whatever it takes. And by the way, if you have to suffer and not eat, who eats first? You or the kids?
Yes.
Right? You do whatever it takes. So I was introduced to the company at the right time. I hit marketing director my first 60 days out the gate. Right, got business going. I was the top recruiter right away out of the hierarchy. But then I went through some personal challenges. I'm going to tell you why this is such a big deal. Because I had to understand something. And the reason why I went through personal challenges was 100% my fault. See, growing up, me and my dad, we weren't always close. My dad never told me he was proud of me until I was 31 years old. Well, I'm 34.
Nice.
Now, it wasn't that dad wasn't proud of me. He just never had his dad show him love, so he didn't know how to show love to me. But my dad taught me his work ethic. Blue-collar worker, construction worker, did whatever he had to do to take care of the family, but he was never there because he was constantly providing for the family. He never told me he was proud of me. And I used to think to myself, I don't need to hear it. But the very first time I heard my dad say he was proud of me, you can begin to see the tears that rolled down my eyes. And I'll tell you something about that because everybody places a meaning with an experience. I'm going to break this down for you. So if you ever go through a situation where you're bit by a dog for the first time. Your first encounter with a dog is we tend to place a meaning with that experience that all dogs are bad. So every time you get around a dog, what do you naturally feel? You feel anxiety. That's crazy because it wasn't even the same dog. So what happens though is we continue to attract the same thing in our lives over and over and over and over again based off one bad experience. Right? We know that, hey, even though it may rain outside and storm, it doesn't storm always, the sun will eventually what? Shine, especially in California, right? But when it's all said and done, when my dad didn't show up to my football games, when my dad didn't tell me he was proud of me, I placed a meaning with that experience that maybe I wasn't deserving of love. Maybe I wasn't deserving of having anything bigger and better. And I always watched my mom and dad struggle with money. Now, they made good money. Dad was a blue-collar worker. Mom was a corporate executive in the 90s, traveled all around the country, made good money, but they also knew how to spend it. So my family was professional spenders, right? And so what I found out is I didn't feel that I deserved to have money, and I didn't feel that I deserved to have love. And so what I found out, every time I had a money problem, I was always there. Wow. Every time I had a money problem, I was always there. Yeah. So what I started to do is I started to blame my dad on how come I wasn't successful financially, how come I failed, how come I lost my job. I started to blame my dad. Well, my dad was a better example. If dad told me he was proud of me, and every time I started to do that, I would be looking in the mirror, but guess who I saw the entire time? Yeah. And an epiphany happened to me as I started, the day I took responsibility for my life is when all of this absolutely changed. Because I had a personal challenge in Virginia. My whole team was gone. I decided that I wanted to relocate to Orlando, Florida about 4 years ago. And if you're like me, let's say you're here by yourself, right? Just you. The great thing about WFG is you can start this business over any time you want. So I moved to Orlando, Florida 4.5 years ago. Didn't know a single soul in Orlando. My wife thought I was crazy. My parents thought I was crazy. Didn't know anything about Orlando. Didn't know that demographics. I moved to an area. I researched something that looked good on the screen. Wound up finding I was in the hood, right? Didn't even know, right? I'm like, hey, I called my wife. Hey, I hear police sirens because I didn't know, right? And why did I move there? I moved there for mentorship. There's a guy named Greg Cap. You guys ever heard of Greg Cap? Yeah. Well, Greg Cap had a lot of values and moral ethics and a lot of things that I valued in my life, and I wanted direct mentorship from him. And I had a friend that was there in Orlando, Florida, said, Tavarus, if you move here, I can guarantee you'll get mentorship from Greg Cap. And he said, hey, you can move into my house, you can live with me. Now keep in mind this, so I had expectations. I'm a praying person, by the way, so I fasted and prayed for 7 days. I went to John 4, verse 44, right? And then God said, there's a prophet doesn't have honor in his own country. He went to Galilee, and I counted letters in Galilee, it was 7. Counted letters in Orlando, it was 7. Now some people say, that's crazy, but that's how I got there. And now when you move on faith, what do you expect? Just like everybody when you start a business, right? You expect big things to happen. How many of you started in WFG, fired up, you were sold a dream, Melinda Comfort, somebody sold you a dream, right? And you're like, man, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be successful, right? And then you had your first chargeback. Then your first business partner quit on you. And you're like, oh shoot, this is kind of hard, right? So you actually got to do some work, right? Then you realize, man, there's work involved, right? But you feel all good, everything is sunshines and rainbows and unicorns, and it's like, wow, I gotta actually be accountable to somebody, I gotta do the work, I actually gotta do personal development, right? Because your income will never grow to the extent that you do. And what I found out is that my self-esteem, even though I said they sold me $1 million dream, my self-esteem was at $2,000 a month. And Greg Cap says this all the time, you'll never make a penny more than your self-esteem. So even though you know how to recruit, you know how to produce, you know how to do it, you know how to do the whoosh boom, who runs the streets, all that, right? You'll never make a penny more than your self-esteem. And so what happened to me is I started to take responsibility for my life. I moved to Orlando, Florida. I'm in a foreign land. It's like a culture shock. And I go to Florida and I call my wife and I'm depressed and I'm down and out and I'm like, honey, there's nobody who wants to do business in Florida. This is a vacation spot. And she said, honey, you sacrifice everything. Time away from our children, time away from me, time away from the family. And I'll never forget that first Thanksgiving, I cried myself to sleep because for the first time in my life, I was away from everything and everybody that I love most. But I'm so glad I went through that situation because I started to find me. See, when I first started the business, I didn't even know who I was, what I was meant to do on earth, what my purpose was. I didn't have any self-confidence at all. But then I picked up this book called You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor. And the first chapter I literally read for about 30 times in a row before I went to chapter 2. By the way, I was so broke I couldn't even buy the book. I got it for free on a PDF. So if anybody just got into Wealth Bowl with your last dime, go to PDF, Google You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor. And I'm going to show you how my whole life changed. I'm about to show you how you think and how you have in life exactly what you think about. You guys ready for this? Yes. Some of you are going to feel a little bit silly when I do it. Some of you are going to be like, wow, it's going to be an aha moment. Because how does someone who makes $50,000 a year not make $500,000? Who's ever heard of people on PhDs, master's degrees, but yet they're in the streets, homeless, broke, working in McDonald's? How is that possible? It's because of how we think. So, I go to Orlando, Florida. I'm there March of 2014. I am depressed, and I do absolutely nothing until September of 2014. I'm in there 6 months. I started, my wife said, honey, you got to get a job. We're going $20,000, $30,000 in debt. She's working at the nail salon. She's trying to get this thing going. Honey, I supported you. I believed in you. I said, we're going to go, even though I didn't want it to happen. The guy who promised me he had a house for me to live in, literally his house was the size of this little square. It was him, his wife, his 2 kids, and we're living in this little shack that he rented from somebody else. I'm living off savings. $800 up to my name. My wife is working, and I'm a grown man who can't provide for his wife and his children. And as a man, that's our number one thing. You know, a woman can never make a man, just so you know. Adam was given a purpose before he was ever given a helpmate. So our number one reason on this earth is to be the best provider we can for our families. And sometimes we struggle with that. It doesn't make an excuse for us not to be right. But sometimes we struggle with that. I don't know who that's for, but sometimes we struggle with that. I'm going to share something for you real quick. So I'm in Orlando, Florida. I'm depressed. So I decided to go get a job at Disney World. You know, where dreams come true. And it was a freaking nightmare. I said freaking, by the way. Nightmare. I was getting paid $8.40 an hour and making $68 before taxes. That's per week. Think about that. So I got even more depressed, right? My wife gives me a call. She says, honey, what's wrong with you? You can't move. I'm depressed. I'm depressed. I'm depressed. I'm depressed. I'm depressed. I tried to get this job and something clicked in my head. She gives me a call and says, honey, you sacrificed everything. And she said these words. She said, I believe in you. And because of the pain I was experiencing at the job, I said, if I help just one family, I can make $2,000. What the heck am I doing? So I prospect this gentleman from Ecuador at the airport. He moves to Miami, Florida. I drive back and forth from Orlando to Miami, Florida, just to try to recruit him. This is how you know how bad I was at closing. Just trying to recruit him 4 days in a row, just to find out he doesn't even have a social security number. I try to call his friends and family. His number, coincidentally, is disconnected. I can't afford an office, so guess where I started my business at? Out of a Panera Bread. So I'm in Panera Bread, and I asked, what can I do? Because they had a little room off to the side. What can I do? I purchased a little $30 projector off of a Craigslist. I wind up starting out at Panera Bread, and I would pay $50 for sandwiches every Tuesday and every Saturday for 3 people to show up to the meeting. Me, myself, and I. And every time I kept saying, we're going to be big, we're going to be huge, we're going to be big, we're going to be huge. And this little voice on my shoulder kept telling me, no, you suck, you're by yourself. And I'm like, shut up, no, you shut up, no, shut up. You ever hear that voice, right? Seriously, by the way, there's always a voice talking to you in your head. And by the way, that's the real you. Let's test this real quick. Do me a favor. Do me a favor. I want you to say this to yourself in your head, because I'm going to show you something that's super powerful that absolutely changed my life. I want you to say this. Say this in your head. I'm not my thoughts. In your head. I'm not my thoughts. I am my commitments. Who heard you say that? You really did, but you heard yourself say that. How is that possible? Say it again. In your head. I'm not my thoughts. I am my commitments. Who heard yourself say that? You do that every single day, and you don't realize you're getting the life that you want. Everything in your life, good or bad, you attract. I'm going to prove it to you in a moment. Check this out. So, I read the book You Were Born Rich, right? First chapter, me and money. I understood I had a relationship with money that was not good. And it came from the fact that I didn't feel like I deserved to have money based on the relationship I had with my father. And so, if I'll say this with me and money. Say it again, me and money. Some of you feel good when you say that. Some of you feel very bad. What I found out is when your bank account is low, your self-esteem tends to go with it. And so I would say me and money. I wasn't comfortable with the idea of having a good relationship with money. And so once I started to get comfortable with that idea, money started to come around. And I realized that I was thinking in two different ways. So if I were to ask you this, what's the color of your car? What would you tell me? Okay, you got a picture on the screen of your mind. What's the color of your refrigerator? What would you tell me? All right, you got a picture on the screen of your mind. But if I were to ask you, what's the color of your mind? What would you tell me? You probably go back to science class. Pink, green, brown, yellow, right? But you don't have a clear picture. Where there's no picture, right? Where there's no vision, the people shall perish. So where there's no picture, you have no direction of where you're going. So draw this on your notes real quick. I want you to draw a huge circle. I'm going to give you a picture of what a mind looks like. And I'm going to show you how you think. And if you get this, and you apply this, your whole life will change. Just like this. Okay? Draw a picture of a huge circle, big circle. Take the whole page. In the middle of the circle, I want you to draw a horizontal line all the way across. Okay? If you can't draw, look at your neighbors to the left or the right and say, okay, all right, that's how it feels, right? Right? You got it? I want you to draw a little line at the bottom of the circle like you're going to make a little man. A little line, just a little line. Just a little line straight down. And I want you to draw a little circle and write body inside of that. Sorry, all right, so everybody got the circle, yes? Yes. From the bottom of the circle, everybody knows the bottom of your circle? Yes. Okay, draw a little line straight down like you're doing a stick figure. Got it? From the middle? From the bottom of the circle. Okay, all right, let me look at this. All right, here we go. Everybody see the circle? All right, at the bottom of the circle, with the circle at the bottom, all right, whoever did this did it wrong too. Is that good? I'm just messing with you. All right, at the bottom. Anybody drew a stick figure before? Yeah. Okay, good. Imagine a circle is your head, okay? And then you're drawing the body. You got it? Now from there, I want you to draw a little circle on top of the stick and write the word body in it. Yes. Are we okay? All right, good. There you go. You got the word. That's still nice. All right. I just learned a lot about your organization. You still know. Right? Just learned a whole lot. So, goodness gracious. I'm going to go back on the East Coast and say, hey, y'all. You know, we're talking about common sense thing? No, I'm just kidding. Not really. No, here we go. So, you draw a circle. Has everybody drew a stick figure before? Because even if you can't draw, you can draw. Thank you, comfort. Let me see that. See, we need a little comfort to make sure we're doing it right. You guys see that? All right, good. Okay, hold them up. Let me just see what you got going on. Because this is you, by the way, right? So write the word body inside the small circle. Write the word body inside the small circle. Okay? Now, this is what I want you to write. To the right. All right, I want you to pay attention to this now. We have a little plan. I want you to write this down because this is super serious. Because I don't care if you're 50, 60, 20, 30, it doesn't matter how old you are. And let's say the last 60 years of your life sucked. The next 60 can be the most extravagant, most exhilarating, most fulfilling of your entire life. Because the first 30 years of my life was not good. But the last 4 have been the most amazing I can tell you. Because of what I'm about to show you right now. Okay? To the right of that, I want you to write in sequence, one on top of each other. Say it with me. One on top of each other. Got it? I want you to write the letter H. Then underneath that, write another letter H. And then underneath that, I want you to write another letter W. Okay? Yeah, I wish I had more time, man, because this is going to be awesome, I'm telling you. So, the first H stands for health. $50. No, I'm on the East Coast, man. We charge more. So, H, I just like to have fun, by the way. H is health. The second one is happiness. And then W is wealth, material wealth. Okay? So, what I'm about to show you right now, the way you think leads to the current health in your body right now, the happiness you have in your life, the fulfillment, the joy, the relationships, and the actual material, the wealth, the money, and the material that you have in your life right now, what I'm about to show you. Okay? So, at the top of your circle, the top. Oh my goodness. All right. Everybody know what the top of the circle is? All right, good. Right underneath the top, right? All right, you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Right underneath the top, I want you to write conscious mind. Conscious mind. If you know how to spell conscious, that's okay. Just put C-O-N mind, right? Conscious mind. Okay? Now, the body isn't right on this one, so don't pay attention to the body. But underneath the line, so you got up here conscious mind, right? Underneath the mind, I want you to write subconscious mind. Right underneath the line. Literally right underneath the line. The words should touch the line. Subconscious mind. Okay? Now I know what they're not. Rehearsals are not. Woo. I got the airport at like 4:30 just for this. No, I'm just kidding. So, conscious mind, subconscious mind, by the way, and then you got the body, right? So I'm about to show you something. This is powerful, okay? So I really want you to catch this. All right? I really want you to catch this. So conscious mind, subconscious mind, you got the body. So by the way, the conscious mind is how you think on a normal basis. Right? If someone calls you stupid, you can reject the idea. No, what? I'm not stupid. Someone calls you ugly, you can reject the idea. Someone calls you handsome, you can accept it or reject it. That's where you can do that. The subconscious mind is where you place emotion to this thing, and now it becomes a habit. And you can't do anything about it once it becomes in your subconscious mind. So let me show you something. We perish for lack of knowledge. So, to the left of your circle, right? You got the left and you got the right, right? Let's do the right. To the right of everybody hold your right hand. I gotta make sure in this room, right? So to the right of your hand, to the right, to the, you got confusing me now, right? To the left of the circle, I want you to write the letter I. Alright, I want you to write the letter I. To the left, top left of the circle. My apologies. Top left.
In the circle or out the circle?
I, the letter I, as in indigo. Thank you. So, when you're ignorant, when you don't have knowledge, now underneath the I want you to write the letter E. Okay, this is powerful. When you're ignorant, we perish for lack of knowledge. When you're ignorant and you don't have knowledge, and you place emotion with that, right? Underneath that E, write F. When you place emotion with that, for example, man, I ain't never got any money. I'm always broke. You come home and you argue with your spouse. Why are you buying those purses and shoes for? And you know we can barely pay the rent. That's emotion. Right? Some of you, the effectual fervent, right? Prayers avail much. Well, guess what? The opposite is true too. You're effective and passionate about what you don't want. I'm about to prove it to you. So when you don't have understanding, when you're ignorant, you don't know. That just means you don't know, right? When you're ignorant and you place emotion with that, they call that fear.
Fear, when it is expressed in the body, right, to the left of the body, right, an A, shows up as anxiety in your body. And what the doctors treat anxiety with is value. Sinclair Lewis simply said this: we don't die, we simply kill ourselves.
Woo!
So you remember earlier, you gave a picture of your car right away. Because when you're aware of something, your brain sends a light message to your mind. A picture flashes on the screen of your mind, and you can tell me the color of your car. When you say your refrigerator, right? Picture flashes on the screen of your mind, you can tell me right away. Now to the other side of to the right side of your mind, I want you to write the letter U. On the other side, I want you to write the letter U. So when you have understanding, okay, you have knowledge, you have understanding, and you place emotion with this, put an E under the U. That's no longer fear, it's now faith. So the other F is faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. And when faith shows up in the body, faith without works is what?
Dead.
It shows up in the body as health, happiness, and material wealth. Check this. So you got two schools of thoughts to understanding. You got science and you got theology. It don't matter which way they both work. By the way, you need both of them because we're spiritual beings living in a body and we have an intellect. We're spiritual beings living in a body and we have an intellect. That's how you can hear your voice earlier. Because we're spiritual beings living in a body and we have an intellect. You guys understand that?
Yes.
Okay? So, you ever see a kid try to put on their shoe for the first time, or they try to tie their shoe? What are they doing? They're struggling, right? Do you even think about how to tie your shoe? No, because it's in your subconscious mind. You're used to doing it. When you put your clothes on, I guarantee when you go take a shower and put your clothes on, you wash the same spot every single time. Guaranteed. Yeah. I would like to think most of you are not even thinking even as we sit right now. Tavarus, what do you mean I'm not thinking? I guarantee you're not thinking. You ever driven sometime on the road and you were meaning to go somewhere else, but because you're so used to going one way, you say, oh crap, I gotta go this way. Who's ever done that before? Right? Yep. When you got your car that you have now, didn't you see it everywhere the moment you started getting it? Why?
Yes.
Because at first it was in your conscious mind, you made a decision you wanted to get it, you placed emotion to it, so you went and bought it, and now because it's important, it shows up all the time in your life. Okay. So check this out. So based off how you think, determines the actions you take, which lead to the results in your life. So what happens is this. Most people are not thinking because we have 5 senses. Taste, touch, smell, sight, hear. And oftentimes we're living based off those 5 senses. So, do me a favor. Raise your hand, right? You guys got it? Just like this. Everybody with me? I need everybody. I gotta see everybody. I need everybody. Hey, do me a favor. Touch your chin, touch your chin, touch your chin, touch your chin, touch your chin. Where's your chin? Where's your chin? Where's your chin? Where's your chin? Oh, it's here. Where's your chin? I told you you're not. I like to think you're not thinking. I like to think you're not thinking. I'm liable to say you were not thinking. You're on autopilot. And that's how you get everything you have in your life. For real. So this is what I found out. My wife and I have a 4-month-old because people say, Tavarus, I come into this business, I'm saying the affirmations, I've been to 285 BPMs, I've been to 400 wealth bowls, and how come my life hasn't changed? Right? Well, if you have a habit of telling yourself you're always broke, money doesn't grow on trees, you don't deserve it, and then you place emotion to that, and you've been doing that for 30, 40 years, that's why you keep getting what you have. But then you give yourself 3 months of saying affirmations, and you're like, oh, it doesn't work. Well, guess what? Every thought in your conscious mind, every thought is a seed. I want you to understand this. Right? And when you repeat it over and over and over and over and over and over and over with emotion, then it moves into your subconscious mind. Then you take the necessary actions which lead to the results in your life. Have you ever been thinking about somebody and they gave you a call and you said, man, how is that possible? They're on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast, you were just thinking about it and then they call you. Is that a coincidence? Seriously. So, what I found out is when you have a clear picture. So I was used to telling myself I don't deserve it, money doesn't stick around, money's always gone, because of what I saw, right? My wife and I have a baby 4 months. When she got pregnant, do we expect the baby to be due next month or 9 months later? 9 months. Because that's a seed that needs to grow. You spent 30 years planting negative seeds and listening to negative seeds, and then you're in this business for 1 year or 2 years and it doesn't work, so I have to quit. So what I learned is I started screaming to myself, I'm a leader, I'm a champion, I'm a money magnet, money comes to me in avalanches of abundance. Boom, over and over, I was screaming because I had to get all that crap out. You understand? Yeah. So, you got the conscious mind, you got the subconscious mind, you take necessary action that leads to the results that you have in your life. Okay? That leads to the results that you have in your life. So, science is called the subconscious mind, the universal mind, the intellectual mind. But the old Greeks, I want you to write this under in the subconscious part. The old Greeks called it the heart. And as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So what I found out is we're all vibrating on frequencies. How do I know? You ever been in somebody's presence, you say, man, I don't have good what? Vibes. Why do you not have good vibes if you're not vibrating? So how do people mess with your vibration? Let's say you get up in the morning. That's why a morning routine is everything. If you're a praying person, you pray. If you're an affirmation person, you say your affirmations, right? You meditate, you visualize. So when you get up and then somebody comes into your presence and say, man, I can't believe this guy ran me off the road. You know what my mama said about my blah, 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 blah. And next thing you know, you get into that. They just got into your vibratory rate and now they just messed you up. You better start protecting your mind. For those of you who are faith people, guard your heart and mind with all diligence for how to flow the issues of life. But guess what? You got to guard your energy too if you're not a faith person. Yeah. It's the same thing. So if you're hanging around negative people, evil communication corrupts good manners.
Good manners, that's right.
You understand what I'm saying? So I want you guys to understand something. Man, I grew up in a church all my life, but no pastor told me what I'm teaching you now. Because I never got the results. They say you'll know them by the fruit that if they ain't got no fruit, then why the heck are you taking advice from them? So I would say this though, in 2000, going into 2020, some of you have been beat up in 2019. No, I want you to hear me clearly. This is real right now. Some of you wanted to commit suicide in 2019. I don't know who you are. Some of you even thought about it prior to this meeting. Some of you thought about it prior to this